On page 8, the goal for graphing these polar coordinates is to be able to represent them in different ways to get to the same point. So what you're going to be assessed on is, can you plot a point and then represent that same point in 3 different ways? So the way that we do that, first we're going to convert the readings to degrees. So we take that 2 pi divided by 3, you get 120 degrees. So we're going to graph this point. We know that this quadrantal angle is 90 plus 15 plus 15. This is 120 degrees. The radius is positive, so we're going to move towards that 120 degrees, 4 circles. All right, so there's that point. Let's call this point A. We need to come up with 3 different ways, not using 4 and 2 pi over 3, to end up at point A. So the first thing you're going to do is, if you draw that line all the way through the pole, if this is 120 degrees, okay, we know this is 270 plus 15, 285 plus 15, 300. So we're going to have an angle of 300 degrees, but we're not moving towards it, so it's not going to be a positive value for R. We're moving away from it, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the R value is going to be -4. So that's one representation. If I graph 300 and go 4 in the opposite direction, you're going to end up at that point, point A. The other way is, now what if we reflected this 120 degrees? Well, that's going to come down here. It's 1, 2 spots away from the quadrantal angle, so 1, 2 spots away. So if we go back -15, -15, what you're going to see here is that these are going to add up to 360 degrees. So if we had an angle of 240 degrees, the point is not on this line. That tells you have to negate the angle. If you negate the angle, you're reflecting over the polar axis, over this line. If you reflect a point that's on the 240 terminal side, it's going to come up here. If it comes up onto this line and it's at the 120, this is going to be a positive value for R. So another representation is 4, -240 degrees. So we've used the 300, we've used the 240. The last one is going to be finding this angle here. So 15, 30, 45, 60. The point is not on this line, so it has to be a negative angle, -60 degrees. And we're going to do a reflection. So once you take -60, you're going to be down on this line with the 300. It's not moving towards the 300, so the radius has to be negative. So this has to be -4. What you're going to find out, you're going to use every iteration of sign. So this was positive, positive, negative, positive, positive, negative, negative, negative. The only other thing to do is then convert these to radians by multiplying each of them by pi divided by 180. So what you're going to end up with here is 5 pi divided by 3. This -240 is going to be -4 pi divided by 3 and -pi divided by 3 with the corresponding value for R. So these are your 3 other representations of that same point. When you graph these 3, you end up in the same exact spot. So I'm going to show you one more. So let's look at, question 3 on the top of page 9. Convert this to degrees, you get 45 degrees and -2. So we're going to go up 15, 30, 45. 45 degrees, I'm going to highlight that line. -2, so we're going 2 in the opposite direction away from 45. So there's our point again, if we just call it something A. So our goal is to end up on A every single time. So we've used up the 45. We need to figure out what this angle is. So here's 270 -15, -15, -15. 225 degrees is the angle. We're moving towards that 2 units. So that would be that. You can convert. This is going to end up as 5 pi divided by 4. So that's one of your answers in terms of radians. Now we need to think about what if we did negative 45. So if we went 40, if we reflected this over the polar axis here, or 1, 2, 3 lines above, 1, 2, 3 lines below. So that's 360, that'd be 345, 330, 315. That's going to be one of the angles that we have to use. 315 degrees. But the point is not on this line, so you have to negate the angle. So this is negative. When we do negative 315, it's going to bump us up here to 45. We're reflecting over this polar axis, and we're moving away from the 45. So the radius is negative 2. Now the last one is this one here. So we're going to have to figure out what this angle is. So we know that this is 90 degrees plus 15 plus 15 plus 15. This is 135 degrees. So this is 135 degrees. We're going to have to reflect because the point A is not on this line. So we reflect over the x-axis or the polar axis. We're down here at 225. And we're moving towards that value, so this radius is positive. The last thing to do is convert these two to radians. So you'd have negative 2 comma negative 7 pi divided by 4 and positive 2, 3 pi divided by 4. Again, you're using every iteration of the signs. We started with negative positive. We have a positive positive, negative negative, and a positive negative. This should have been a negative value because we reflected it. All right, so what I'd like you to do, this skill is going to take a little more time to sink in, is go ahead and do page 8, finish up page 8, page 9, and then page 10 and page 11, please. And then check your work on the answer key. And then if you have time left over during the block, I expect that you work on other classes' work that you need to get done. Thank you.